Just a quick note before this free video. If you click like and subscribe, I'd be very thankful.
Like when I was younger, there were not a lot of players playing until their mid-30s. And now you watch the NBA, and a lot of the best players can actually play not only into their mid-30s, but past their mid-30s. Mm-hmm. And you watch wrestling, and it's kind of the same thing. Like nobody would really know it, but before you blink, Cody Rhodes is going to be 40 years old. Roman Reigns and John Cena and Seth Rollins, they're going to be 40 years old fairly soon. But they're giant stars right now. They're not moving out. Like no one's moving them. They're at the peak of their powers right now. And we always talk about who's the young star. I'm always like, oh, Braun Breaker, they can do this with him and that. But who do you move out to move in the young talent? I think that is a problem in wrestling today. Mm-hmm. And I had a solution, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. This is not really AEW because AEW doesn't have things set up that would allow them to take advantage of it, but WWE does. I think WWE has enough stars and a big enough roster with depth. And if they needed more, I'm sure there are willing people on the other side who they could grab if they wanted to, or grab people out of New Japan. NXT currently is the only television show that they have on broadcast television. Raw is streaming, SmackDown on cable, LFG is on cable, Evolve is on Tubi. Yeah. But NXT is the one that is on the broadcast network. What if you could either, I would probably change the brand and move the NXT brand somewhere else. They literally should have a third high-level brand. Like imagine and the wrestler that I was thinking about, there's a few of them. I was like, okay, Ricky Starks, Ethan Page, Sean Spears, and then you look at the older guys like Randy Orton. Randy Orton's just kind of, he's always going to be Randy Orton and always going to be in that upper card. Is he doing anything real interesting? I guess. Kevin Owens' program's okay. But they have a lot of people, Damian Priest being another one, and Drew McIntyre. They're kind of like, that they're not going to be the top guy, but they can be in a space. If somebody got hurt, move Drew McIntyre right into that spot, top guy. I actually think they have the roster to have 3 top running brands. And what you do is you take the NXT current program and you move that to Tubi. That is your Evolve whatever. They're kind of doing it sort of similarly with the goofiness from what I understand. I haven't watched any of the shows.
I watched one and never watched another one again.
But think about what that broadcast contract really means. So today or yesterday, NXT, the numbers came out. They did like 650,000 viewers. It was a low rating for them. But if you think about the possibility of what they could do, there's a higher ceiling for them if they wanted to do something more interesting, because as we know, CM Punk goes on that show, they do an extra 300, 400,000 viewers. But if WWE, as they're thinking of conquering the wrestling world, if you have first run television on Monday on the streaming platform, Tuesday on broadcast television, and Friday on cable, what is there room for anything else, really? Dynamite could still have their Wednesday slot, but that, because here's the main problem. NXT, there's probably 3 or 4 talents on NXT right now that if there were spots on the main roster, they would fit right in. We'll see the post WrestleMania purge about what happens, but there's going to be a point where WWE's roster is going to be so solid that when you think about those, those post WrestleMania cuts and people not wanting to answer their phone, I don't know that they're going to have easy cuts because the talent level is just so high. And I don't know that this. I think it would work business wise. It may be harder. It may add some complexity to kind of the wrestling that they do. But they have enough. To me, they have enough top talent to run 3 shows. First run, high level, main roster kind of shows.
Yeah, that means they got to book bigger buildings for Tuesdays as well, right? So that's gonna the cost goes up. No, they have
But they're only running TVs, really. Like it's only one. You do have to do one. The product right now is hot, so it would sell. But yeah, there are added expenses to doing it that way, and more planning, and juggling of schedules, and there's an increased process and operation to that. But
Yeah,
I think they're leaving money on the table with this NXT slot as it is.
They could easily do it, and I think it would definitely do a better rating they had. But would it be? I don't know. It would kind of then it might start hurting. Then, like other than financially, I think it'd be fine. But I think it might be too much for the viewer, because at least there's some balance. Like I know you don't have to watch NXT if you don't really need to, but the people that do watch all 3, it's a different show on Tuesday than a Monday and Friday, so that makes it easier, I think, to follow. You don't have to like keep up and then another thing, and then you got this person and who you're trying to fit in. Like, do we need to get who's a lower end person on the time on the television that we need to get on television? Like, I don't know. I think 2's fine for me, but I understand.
Well, yeah, from a viewership standpoint,
yeah.
I don't necessarily need to see it. I'm thinking from a TKO, we want to take over the world standpoint. If I'm Mark Shapiro and I look at that Tuesday number and I go, man, like, why is this Tuesday number so much smaller than the Friday number? And they'll tell him, well, yeah, because it's our intro brand, it's our young person brand.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, why? Like, why do we do it this way? Like, I just think, the more that folks kind of dig into the opportunity and a possibility, I think the NXT show may be the one where they're leaving money on the table and leaving money out, from the arena gate business, from the PLE business. Because I have to imagine, if they're selling to Netflix, right? Let's say they want to sell the PLEs to Netflix and they go, hey, we have these NXT shows, and Netflix goes, oh, why is viewership half? And like, well, it's the third brand. Like, why aren't, why don't we make it more important? Like, I could definitely see that happening, especially as they sell this stuff. So just something that I thought, because I was watching,
interesting.
I was listening to a conversation about the NBA and how, LeBron James is 40 and he's still playing, at high level. Steph Curry's 37, still playing at a high level.
Yeah.
KD, same thing. And yeah, it's much harder to age these basketball players out, but also the wrestlers, like all these guys in WWE are over 40 years old. That that's the top guys in WWE are nearing 40 or over 40. So what happens in 5 years? No one's just going to go, oh yeah, I'm older, I'm stepping aside so that this young person who's been waiting in the wings for 5 years. No, there's going to be competitive. Like the top of the food chain is going to be so competitive. And as they bring in more women, it'll be sort of similar, though. You see Charlotte right now. How old is Charlotte, by the way?
I don't know, 30 something.
She's got to be. She's got to be. I was thinking more mid 30s, but like, she she's working her ass off to try and stay, to keep the athleticism at a high level.
Yeah.
She's not going to just step aside for folks. So it's just kind of that thing, like, because Vince McMahon, the way that he did it, it was always kind of like, yeah, like all these guys are over 40. We got to replace them with younger folks and we got to move them through. But the business doesn't work like that anymore.
I think when it comes to like Paul Levesque's booking, he's not focused on age as much. Like if Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins are still producing as top guys, they will probably remain top guys until one day their athleticism takes the dip, or eventually all that stuff will kind of catch up, and they will be winding down, and just for themselves.
But they're wrestling once a month, so
yeah,
they
also
also
wrestled more physical style than in the past too. So taking more risk and chances and all that.
I mean, from it, like that. There might be more bloody lips and more, knocks to the eye or whatever.
Or just they weren't doing buckle bombs and like in 1983. So like it's just more physical style for sure.
No traveling, very little traveling, like today versus yesteryear. Not having to take a back bump 3 times or 4 times a week because there's no house shows. Like all of these things, the travel and flights and nutrition and better drugs, like all of this stuff is allowing these folks to be at a peak physical level, much older. And look, here's the other thing. These dudes aren't wasting away with the drug habits that they used to have.
They're saving their money. They're looking at other opportunities to go into, beyond wrestling.